they always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Hello, what's up and what's good on the internet and what's good in life? I'm Akeem Balaam, aka Li495. The majority of the sporting populace is indeed happy and throwing a party because this past Wednesday night, football for 2012 and 2013 officially kicked off. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting ever since last year's Super Bowl. Of course, we got through the spring, we got through the summer, baseball, the start of the baseball season, the end of the basketball season, and of course we all enjoyed the Olympics. But indeed, football is back. If you want to call it America's pastime, go right ahead. I won't do it, but for many it is the national pastime these days in America, and it has indeed returned. And it returned this Wednesday with the initial kickoff between the defending Super Bowl champion New York Giants as well as the Dallas Cowboys. And most people, I believe 81% of people, they did an NFL poll on this, 81% of people predicted that the Giants would win the game. The Cowboys had other plans, and particularly in the second, third, and fourth quarter. You know, in that first quarter, you know, it was that game between Dallas and New York. It was really a defensive struggle. It didn't seem like either team could get much going. But in the second, third, and fourth quarter, the Cowboys took over that game as if they were in Arlington once again. What about this guy, DeMarco Murray, and the game that he had? A lot of people probably didn't even know who he was, but you know, DeMarco Murray, he had a pretty big game, as well as Kevin Ogletree, receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin Ogletree, I believe, he had 2 of their 3 touchdowns, not to mention the last catch that really sealed it for the Cowboys as they won by a final score of 24-17 over the G-men. But Tony Romo, a lot of people are talking about Tony Romo, and a lot of people, you know, they always like to, and I guess I can put myself sort of in that category. You know, a lot of people like to debate, is Tony Romo an elite quarterback? Is Tony Romo not an elite quarterback? You know, I said, you know, throughout that game, I tweeted to one of my good buddies here on The Real Sports Talk, Nate Sarmir. You know, I told him that Romo has the talent to be an elite quarterback, but the problem is that he doesn't seem, you know, on games to have the intangibles of a Tom Brady or an Eli Manning or Peyton Manning or Ben Roethlisberger or an Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees. He doesn't have that X factor, that intangible that really, you know, puts him up there in that elite class. But he had a pretty good game that day. The first game, he went 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, not to mention a passer rating of 129.5. For game number 1, I believe 129.5 passer rating is pretty daggone good for your first game in 2012. So certainly, definitely the Dallas Cowboys, they won 24-17 over the Giants. Of course, it's only one game, but you gotta know, you gotta, you know, continue to watch these games. Of course, you know, maybe he has more games like this, and maybe this is the year that he takes that step in order to become one of those elite quarterbacks. I don't think so, because I don't think the Cowboys are going to win. You know, very, very great game, impressive game. Also, on defense, DeMarcus Ware on defense really leading the charge for Dallas. But we're going to see what happens, of course, as this season does indeed progress. But definitely a good first start for the Dallas Cowboys, which actually segues me into my Week 1 picks for this season, as I have the schedule here. New England Patriots over the Tennessee Titans. I got the Pats in that one. Washington Redskins, New Orleans Saints. I had the Saints before. I really got the Saints now because, of course, of that judge's ruling that wound up happening, where Jonathan Vilma and all those other players, now their suspensions have indeed been lifted by an independent judge, and they are eligible to play in this week's game at the Louisiana Superdome versus Robert Griffin III and the Washington Redskins. Again, I had the Saints before, but I really got them now. And again, they may not play maybe week 2 or week 3 or week 4, Vilma and everybody else, because Goodell still may wind up resuspending them. But a lot of New Orleans Saints fans and a lot of people in the Gulf South are throwing up their middle fingers at the and their Who Dat signs at the New Orleans at the commissioner's office this week. I got the Saints in that one. Dolphins, Texans. That's not a very interesting game to watch because the Texans should just blow out the Dolphins. Everybody's talking about Ryan Tannehill as a rookie starting quarterback for Miami, but the Texans look like Super Bowl contenders. In fact, they're my pick. They're not my pick to get to the Super Bowl this year. I got them going to the AFC Championship game and eventually losing to the Baltimore Ravens. But definitely Houston Texans big over the Miami Dolphins. Detroit Lions over the St. Louis Rams. I got Detroit over them. I got the Chicago Bears beating the Indianapolis Colts, despite the fact that, of course, everybody's talking about Andrew Luck. Falcons and Chiefs. That seems to be interesting. Everybody's talking about the Chiefs and the defensive impact that they can make possibly on this season. And of course, the Atlanta Falcons. They're my pick to get to the NFC Championship, or rather to get to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. They're a lot of people's pick. A lot of expectations this year on Matty Ice and all the boys down there in the ATL. So we're going to see if they're able to live up to those in that first game. But I got the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting game between Atlanta and Kansas City, but I got the Atlanta Falcons winning over the Kansas City Chiefs in that one. Jacksonville Jaguars and the Minnesota Vikings. Maurice Jones drew the whole deal. I got Jacksonville over the Minnesota Vikings. Buffalo Bills over the New York Jets. I can understand some people, they may have the New York Jets, but and everybody's talking about the fact that the Jets didn't score a touchdown in the preseason, but there's only so much that you can gather, of course, from the preseason. I got the Buffalo Bills winning that one. Philadelphia Eagles over the Cleveland Browns. Of course, I got Philly. Seattle Seahawks against the Arizona Cardinals. I actually got the Cardinals in that one. I think that's going to be an upset pick. I have a funny feeling that perhaps John Skelton is going to surprise. Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got Carolina winning that. 49ers and the Packers. That's another interesting one because, of course, somebody was talking about on ESPN that the 49ers were almost champions of the NFC West last year, almost on accident, because the rest of that division is seemingly just god-awful. But we're going to see if the 49ers can indeed repeat that success that they had last year. Also, Randy Moss is on that team, of course, this year. So that'll definitely be interesting once again to watch for the 49ers, and of course for the Packers, of course, Aaron Rodgers and everybody there, and that'll probably be the nationally televised game most likely. But I got Green Bay winning that one at Lambeau Field, their opener. Against San Francisco. And of course, Steelers, Broncos, Peyton Manning's debut for the Denver Broncos. And a lot of people seem to be writing the Broncos off because they're saying that Peyton Manning is old. We're going to see how old he is, or if he indeed is not old. He didn't play at all last year, of course, but we're going to see how the Broncos do with Peyton Manning at quarterback. If he's the same Peyton Manning, I got the Denver Broncos big, but if he's a shell of himself, take the Steelers. I'm predicting the Broncos will win, but we'll see. But we'll see with that with them and the Steelers. And also, there's the Ben Roethlisberger story. He could miss that game due to the birth of his child. Which if he winds up missing the game due to the birth of his child, let him miss the game. The birth of someone's child, becoming a father, is much more important than a football game, of course. So I got the Broncos winning that. Also, the Bengals and the Ravens. Not too many people are talking about the Bengals. Weren't they a playoff team last year? Come again? Weren't they a playoff team last year, coming out of that very, very tough AFC North? We're going to see perhaps if the Bengals can indeed live up to those expectations, if they can indeed repeat, or if they're just one-hit wonders with Andy Dalton as their quarterback. Everybody was talking about Tebow and Cam Newton. Andy Dalton actually got, Tebow he got his team to the playoffs too, but so did Andy Dalton out of the AFC. So Bengals, Ravens, I got the Ravens in that one, by the way, and Chargers and Raiders, I'm picking I'm going to go with another upset pick and pick the Oakland Raiders at home in the black hole to beat the San Diego Chargers. So to run down my picks once again: Pats over the Titans, Saints over the Redskins, Texans over the Dolphins, Lions over the Rams, Bears over the Colts, Falcons over the Chiefs, Jaguars over the Vikings, Bills over the Jets, Eagles over the Browns, Cardinals over the Seahawks, Panthers over the Bucks, Packers over the Niners, Broncos over the Steelers, Ravens over the Bengals, and Raiders over the Chargers. And also, before I get out of here, Done talking about all my NFL picks. What I also want to talk about here on this edition is possibilities of a World Series that Fox won't like, including, let's say, Athletics Reds, Nationals Orioles, perhaps. Another possibility that maybe they wouldn't be too fond of. Maybe let's say Braves and the Tigers, maybe. But with the Phillies and the Red Sox out of the picture, and of course the Cubs are long out of the picture, and the struggling Yankees, what they're doing, also another one, maybe Nationals Rays are possibly, another one, maybe Reds Rays. But there are a lot of World Series possibilities when you look at the teams that are still left in the playoff race, with 10 teams, of course, this year with the 2 wild cards. A lot of possibilities for World Series matchups that'll really make the folks at Fox really cringe in their suits and skirts. But hey, who cares about what Fox thinks? It's all about the fans, and it's definitely all about the fans, of course, here on the Real Sports Talk. Keep it locked here for more NFL coverage as well throughout the season. So until next time, I'm just one guy talking about nothing. Rate, comment, react, reply. 10 minutes on the clock, which I actually went into overtime. Of course, this being week 1 of the NFL season, I sort of consider it apropos. So, rate, comment, react, reply, add, subscribe. I'm just one guy talking about nothing on 10 minutes on the clock on the Real Sports Talk, LI495. See you on the internet someplace.
Just a little bit around the corner from fear. Be there,